Thank you. Right, well, thank you all for coming, especially those that turned up on time.
There was nothing positive.
Go through the agenda then. First one. Apologies.
Apologies from Councillor Glenn, Councillor Staggs, Councillor Oates, Councillor Hudson and Councillor Fuller.
Okay, we're happy to accept those apologies. Okay then. Right, declarations of interest. Go first. I'm a resident of St Christopher's Drive. You'll go second.
I am a former member of the Blackthorn Neighbourhood Plan Working Party and a current Blackthorn Parish Councillor as well.
Yes, member of resident of St Peter's Road.
Right. Right. Okay. Public participation from interested parties or members of the public. So we have some public here. Are you interested?
Let me just say, well done for all the hard work that was put in by the town council, even though we were.
Well, we've had some great leadership over here. These two characters, Ian and Peter. Yeah.
I think whatever we put forward last week, we weren't going to get through. That's my feeling, anyways, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. And then considerations of requests from interested parties. Nothing right. Okay then. So on to the item, the neighbourhood plan. Just in sort of opening this, I think the title will very shortly change to Arundel Housing Development or something like that. But at the moment, we'll maintain the neighbourhood plan as our
community plan is a good phrase.
There you go, community plan. Thank you.
Prepared by the community for the community.
That's a separate thing, isn't it? Community action plan is another document altogether.
No.
Different plan.
Anyway, we will be developing a name for it. Yeah. Right. Peter, would you like to back first,
I wasn't there. I'm not going to sort of speak on something I wasn't there for. So down to you and Ian.
Yeah, go on, Ian. You were there.
Was I?
I definitely heard you.
Yes.
It was an interesting meeting. As someone who is increasingly a voyeur of planning meetings, it was a goodie. It was 4 hours long. It covered all sorts of exciting bases like 5-year land supplies and sewage and Lord knows what else. It was a tour de force by one of East Northant's planning officers who battered everything away in a beautiful Atherton style, and I think in the end the committee were probably given very little choice to put it through. Yeah, I think we put up as good a fight as we could have done. But I get the feeling that there was a limited range of options that we could have done. So everything's not all over, but it was yeah, it was a slightly depressing journey home.
Yeah. No, I think we had a good turnout from the residents. Yeah, there was good numbers in there. I have seen a draft of the minutes of the meeting, which are extremely disappointing, in as much as there isn't a single mention of what came from the public gallery and the public speaking in the meeting.
Tony brought in the actual tape from the meeting, which Peter has the disc.
Oh right, okay then.
I'll listen to it tomorrow and pass it on.
Yes, yes.
So that is going to be accurate. I just have to be adopted.
I'll try, actually, I can burn some discs and send them on.
David, you were there. Were you in the other room? Were you?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And what was the mood in that room?
Resignation, I think, because it became very obvious very quickly which way this was going. Because the position adopted by the planning department itself was that there were no problems. Nothing was a problem. The traffic flows were not a problem. The road layout wasn't a problem. The sewage farm wasn't a problem. The fact that part of this development would be in Blackthorn Parish, which had got a neighbourhood plan that said that it shouldn't be any building there, was strangely not a problem. In fact, I was very struck by the fact that they were saying that it was not incompatible with the Blackthorn neighbourhood plan. Building 60 houses in a village of 120 houses had said it wanted a maximum of 20 up to 2031 is, I think, in contradiction, however you define it, to a neighbourhood plan. And I know that Blackthorn are distinctly unhappy. How far they will be able to take that unhappiness is another matter, but it's wrecked the faith of the Blackthorn faithful, if you like, in their own neighbourhood plan. They put a lot of effort into it, and they've just seen the whole thing torpedoed, without any acknowledgement of the fact by the local planning authority. So it was extremely disappointing. I was just somewhat, even though there was a degree of inevitability, I was still pretty horrified by the final way in which the vote turned out, because nobody was prepared to say no.
Or even step back.
So, yeah. Yet again, I'm afraid to say, the East Northants Planning Department flies in the face of what the public of Arundel want. And it was demonstrable what they wanted. They turned up in force to make it clear what they wanted. We as a town council had made it clear what they wanted, but it doesn't appear to count for anything.
Yeah. Phil, since you're around the table, in your role on the council and the minutes of the meeting, the fact that they do not reflect any of that public input that went into there, is there a way of you doing anything about
yes,
that?
Of course I can reject the minutes. Certainly at the next planning meeting,
Yep.
when I call for people to say the minutes are okay, are you all happy with it, and I'll sign them off.
Yeah.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
I could do that. I'd want to see the minutes, because I haven't obviously yet, although they'll be on the website soon, will they? Have you seen them on the website?
They've been passed by another person to me.
Well, those were comparing with the tape, the disc of the evening, just to see the accuracy of what was said and what was in the minutes.
Yeah.
If there is a shortfall, then the meeting falls over,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore the decisions taken by the man in the meeting will go backwards.
Well, that's interesting.
But that could easily fall into the hands of the developers saying, we've not determined it, therefore they'll take it on and take it away from us.
Can I ask you then, Phil, the draft minutes that we've received, I'm assuming they're not the official minutes yet?
They won't be. They can't be official until that meeting has taken place,
what
but they will be published a week
What I'm
before.
saying is, we've then got to take notes from the official meeting, or the official minutes of the meeting, and compare it to the actual recording.
Yes.
We can't use the draft.
No.
No.
Can we use the draft as a comparison so that we don't have to sort of...
I don't think that would be wise. Depends what we plan to do with it. If we can see in there that there are a few things which are anomalies or worse, if there's something worse than that, if lies were told or something like that, then we have to decide what we're going to do about it. Or I do. Whatever.
Well,
One of those items
On that subject,
Yeah. On that very subject, yes, go on, David.
Paul Bland informed councillors who were sitting making that decision that ENC had, I can't remember the exact words he used, but the effect was that ENC had advised Arundel Town Council not to submit its neighbourhood plan for examination. That was not my recollection of matters. I've contacted various people around this table to try and find out if anybody thought that that was in fact accurate. And as far as I can see, it wasn't. Now, of itself, I don't think that it makes a difference to what the decision was. But if an officer of the council is misleading councillors, and it can't have been an accident, it didn't come out that way.
Not particularly if one of his staff had written a letter to Arundel Town Council saying the plan's all right, we're putting it through to inspection.
Yeah. I mean, it was simply a deliberate piece of misinformation. And I think that this council should formally make a complaint against Mr. Bland. Because officers should not get away with it. I mean, I sat there dumbstruck when I heard it and started looking at a fellow councillor who wasn't sitting very far from me.
Every single one of his comments about the Oundle neighbourhood plan was dismissive and derisory. So it's almost as if he was laying out a pathway of actually no one has done it right. We've given them all the opportunities, yada yada, and it actually turns so that could be construed as misleading in some respects.
Well, I think everything he said about it was misleading, but that was particularly so.
Yeah, it was very simple.
It should not go
The
unchallenged.
particular phrase he used was against the advice of this council. And I believe people, I know of at least one person that may have emailed him directly asking him for where that's publicly available. They've had no reply yet. But then he went on to talk about, in damning terms, he talked about a damning report. And he did say earlier on, he was involved in a series of meetings, and those meetings had all been supporting the town council. They went against the advice of this council, put it forward, and it failed in no uncertain terms. And then actually mentioned to his desire to sort of take us on in the report that was published for that night. There's a little reference to something, and he eventually said that I would come back to this if anyone raised similar issues, which suggests that it was something that was on his mind before.
Yeah.
Get it off his chest.
Well, the evidence is there on the disc, if that's the case.
Yeah.
And, as I said, I can take that up with ENC because I support what's being said, and I think it was wrong to have done it that way. Just because they're under severe pressure, for whatever the reason. And officially I can take that up when we have the next planning meeting, which is next Wednesday.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you doing that, but I think, just in terms of what David said, was we do need a formal Oundle Town Council objection as well. Yeah, so, we run these...
That's more important.
Yeah, so, that I think with everybody's agreement, then we should carry on with that course of action.
Yes.
I think the one thing that we
want
need...
to put in that letter also that there was no representation in the committee from Oundle. Same with the district plan. There was nothing in the district plan with Oundle's name upon it. So at the same time, you could charge ENC perhaps with saying they have avoided Oundle and its difficulties for them, and have not been able to support it correctly. The application should always be promoted by someone from the floor. But I couldn't find anyone willing to do it.
Yeah.
Point blank. Some were frightened, some didn't want to do it, some knew too many people around and about, so just gave it up. But it wasn't pushed from the floor, and therefore we didn't have anyone from the floor to ask questions.
Yeah.
That knew what they were talking about, because most of them were up in the gallery or outside.
Yeah. Well, I think so, in the same frame as what we're talking about there, the challenging of their statements.
Yes.
So again, if we'd had somewhere on the floor, we had that statement, that they had said don't submit the plan. The only record that we had was all the way back to Regulation 14.
Yeah.
But we certainly had their support at examination. So even in terms of it being misleading, it was very misleading. Yeah. All right.
But don't forget it's going to get called in, maybe. If it does get called in by the Minister, then there will be a time at that time to say what our thoughts are. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Well, we just hope that goes away.
Not that the developer is paying the slightest attention to that, because they've already started. There's a road, sort of end of, that comes down St Peter's Road on the flat bit. And before you go up the hill, there's a little continuation was always obviously built with a view to that potentially being extended. And at the end of it, there was a very mature series of trees, hedging and all sorts. And it's gone. Because that is the
They
end.
can't start work on
No,
the
they can't
application
start.
until the minister has agreed.
But they have.
I don't think that's
Yes,
the
I
developer.
understand that. So therefore,
You think that's the landowner?
I know it's not the developer, because it's my wife.
well, she's knocking trees down.
No, she's knocking bushes down, for the drainage channel.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So,
So,
Well, if it isn't the developer, I will have to
Ash,
withdraw the
yeah.
comment. It did seem entirely sort of logical to assume it was, I have to say.
they are linked, but not for that reason.
Can we ask if she's asked for permission?
I don't think she has to ask permission for little bushes to be taken
Oh,
down.
it's little bushes, not trees.
It is little bushes.
okay. So with your agreement then, the official complaint will go in and you will do your other thing in parallel to that. Yeah. In terms of then, if I can move on to Tom Pursglove and our contacts with Tom Pursglove.
Yeah, I mean, the disappointing thing about it is that, I mean, I know obviously Tom has sent it to the Minister of State and we're hoping that he's going to call it in. He's sent letters to Oliver, the Chief Executive of the ENC, and ENC are basically just ignoring him. I mean, they have not even bothered to, I mean, there's 3 or 4 people now written to Tom, written to Oliver. Nobody gets a reply from him. It's as though he's not there anymore. It's as though, you know, he's in some sort of mystical bubble that means he doesn't have to talk or deal with anybody. I don't know why, but
Okay.
that's where we're at.
Well, because he's not going to be chief executive.
Yeah.
On the updated report that was presented last Wednesday night, there was a section saying, which I can't put on their website now,
Right.
saying that the Chief Executive's reply to the MP would be shown to members of the committee. And
Right.
clearly that wasn't done. So whether it was done with the intention of doing it or it was shown privately, I can't imagine it was. But that's on the website, that they
Okay.
intended to show the reply.
Right. So just in terms of a technicality then, you are a member of the committee. So they should have shown you whatever that reply was to Tom, even though you weren't sitting in the chamber that evening.
Yes and no, because I recluse the chair, I can't be part of the committee, I have to leave it, do nothing, because I might influence the other members being the chair.
So that means you have no right to see that letter. The letter that the Chief Executive wrote on behalf of ANC to Tom Pursglove.
Whether I have a right to see it or not, I don't know. Whether I could actually see it, yes, I probably could find it.
Yeah.
Can we find out if we've got it?
Pardon?
Can we find out if it has been given to the other members of the committee?
I could try.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't been given to the members of the committee.
Definitely not.
No.
So it's not been published, basically.
Does it exist?
Probably not. No, Mr. Oliver.
Okay, so in terms of, yes,
Have you had a response from Paul Bland to the complaint, stage 2?
No. No, so we haven't had a response to that stage 2 of the complaint process, which has gone to Paul himself. What I'm just looking in terms of the Angle Town Council letter to Tom Pursglove then, it is a request of did he receive an adequate response from ENC or from David Oliver, you know, to his request.
Most certainly.
Yeah,
I think
so
the
that's
other
one
thing we
item.
should- yeah,
Yeah.
I think the other thing we should put in that letter to Tom as well is the fact that Paul Bland lied on the night.
Yeah.
Because I think that...
you probably should
You have to be very careful.
Well,
You
look,
probably are. You probably
So it is
we
a
have
choice
not
of...
had any communication. I mean, he was on sick leave or jury duty for almost 5 months, or was it 5 months?
Oh, but Richard was here twice.
Yeah, but no, but the letter was supposed to come from Paul Bland.
Yeah, but yeah, I think just in terms of wording, the wording would go along the lines of misled.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, you're very mild. You see, I'm afraid I'm not.
Yeah. But I think it gets the point over.
Oh, yeah, no, I
we will
It's
expand.
in inverted commas then.
Yeah, but we go on to explain you know, and we explain, you know, we can use the tape then to say the exact wording that was used, and, you know, then refer to the letter that we had from E&C encouraging us to go to examination and praising that the document complied with all the legal requirements. Yeah, so, okay, that's in there then.
More and more, the guy sitting at the end, underneath you guys the other night, Rob Harborough, is taking control of everything. He is Director of Infrastructure and Growth in the new council. Already, what do you think we're doing? He's going to every planning meeting that we have. I tackled him on the second meeting and said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Because I can.
Harborough. Yeah, and Director of Infrastructure and
Growth,
based in Wellingborough. He seems to have a total control of almost everything. I think most of the dirty tricks have been possibly from him.
You think he's directing what's going on there at the moment?
I would think so, yes.
Right, okay.
He certainly tried to stop 5-year land supply information coming out to members. Because I've seen that memo.
Yeah.
But he was told he had to because we had 2 applications to consider the following night.
Yeah.
So we had to be told. But they stopped us last night at a group meeting from talking publicly about 5-year land supply. That's Jake and I.
Yeah.
Because we'd already got it sorted that we would talk about it quite loudly, but then we chickened out when we were told that it wasn't perhaps the right thing to do just now.
So do you believe that Rob Harborough knows what's gone on in Oundle, or do you think it's a... Yeah?
Yes, I do.
But you also think he supports it?
No.
You don't think he supports
No,
it?
he
Okay.
supports the district plan.
Yeah, okay, so I can understand the technicalities in that statement.
That's a very
Whichever way.
important clarification.
Yeah. Well, I, you know...
It's quite pressure for the district plan to go through.
Yeah, so, you know, I reiterate that, you know, I want the district plan, you know, a district plan to go
Especially in
through.
your letter to the NC.
You know, but not, you know, with the undemocratic
Not a
district plan.
planner's district plan.
So, you know, these people keep on telling us that we failed at examination, yeah, and they say that we failed an examination on consultation, and every consultation that we've had have said that they want the Oundle plan, and they don't want the district plan. So, you know, it really rattles me when I can get the guys telling me that our plan failed an examination. Yeah, and the biggest thing that it failed on was this technicality over what consultation is and is not. So, you know, another letter coming up here for Rob Harborough then. Thank you. So, do you want to come in there? Not yet, sorry. I was watching the pen and then which end up it was.
And the 5-year district plan, so 5-year land supply for the district plan not being there, I think we have to say that it isn't there, although they're still saying they're trying to find it and that's what the figures were. But I don't think it is there. That has a remarkable effect upon my committee, if you like, in that we can't really turn anything down. If there's housing in it, it has to go through because they're claiming we haven't got a 5-year land supply and then it'll go through.
Has anybody ever done the check on the status of Northamptonshire's 5-year plan? Because as it was reported last week, you know, both Wellingborough and Corby...
each area has it, 2 or 3 of them, like Corby, don't have it either.
I heard them saying that they had an excess of housing in their plan, both Wellingborough and Corby. You know, so it was reported to that meeting. What the truth is... But it's only that base that if the whole of Northamptonshire has, you know, adequate housing in it, again, you know, it shouldn't...
The office have been very acute about that essentially they're now not saying what individual areas have, they're just saying overall, between us, we've got very nearly 5-year land supply.
Yeah.
So, I suspect we haven't overall.
And as far as Oundle goes, if you include the sites that we put in our neighbourhood plan, our contribution to that would be in compliance with what ENC had asked us to do.
The core spatial strategy was the document that we worked upon, which was 300 units, which
Yeah.
we come up with. And so does the district plan.
Yeah.
I wish we'd put them all in his land. We should have all gone into one site and we wouldn't have had this problem. We'd have got through it a long while ago.
Yeah.
But neighbourhood plans are effectively dead.
They are. I mean,
There won't be much of anything for anyone anymore.
no. So we've been told, last week by ENC on the application that was in before us, that because that land was not in the neighbourhood plan, had no impact on them granting it planning permission. And we were told in the previous meeting when Fletton Field was being discussed that the extension to Rushton Lakes, which was not in the local neighbourhood plan, that was going ahead because they didn't have, the neighbourhood plan was a minimum number of houses, not a maximum. Therefore, the whole thing has been a complete waste of time, and not an element.
Pushing really hard on shovel-ready sites, that which they can just go straight in and build some houses. The government are pushing that so hard, and that's what comes down to us.
Right, but again, if ENC had told us this, when they knew it in March 2018, they knew in March 2018 that they had a 2025 deadline, and they never shared that information with the other developers in Oundle or with Oundle Town Council.
Or the district council.
Yeah.
There's a point here, I think, that needs to be raised insofar as it's about the enormous amount of taxpayers' money that's been wasted, not only here, but throughout the whole country. If that's the case, and central government is now changing, there is an enormous amount of money which need that, and that in itself is an issue that needs to be raised at some point, somewhere.
Yeah, so I think that's another level for the Tom Perscoff letter.
Yeah,
It's now in here.
There's a very large number of
You've nearly
national
written
plans
that.
there, isn't there?
I don't think any neighbourhood plan, apart from ours, has been turned down in our area.
But hearing what you've just said, Phil, that neighbourhood plans are now gone.
So even if ours had
So
been
the
approved,
whole thing was a ridiculous,
Indeed.
ridiculous exercise that cost everybody a lot of money.
But the intention was right because it gave guys like you the right to say what I want for Oundle.
but
It gets ignored.
The intention, but then that was all the smokescreen, wasn't
Makes it worse.
I mean, that's just,
it does. Yeah.
that's just the smokescreen to say all any neighbourhood plan did was open up to developers places that were identified that they could develop. So they took half of the research the developer would have to do away from us. There you go, on a plate. These are all the places we've identified, off we go. So if you look at it that way, it is, and it's happened nationally, and as you say, it's much easier for a developer to sit in a green field, instantly start work on the infrastructure without having to connect to or fiddle around with existing. It's the whole thing. It's becoming more and more of a scam. The more you
Again, the 5-year land supply situation dictates that we've got to have those houses, the government wants those houses, and they're fitting them in everywhere. Whatever we like or want or need or have a plan for,
but they could have done that without the whole fiasco of neighbourhood plans.
Yeah.
The neighbourhood plan was formulated, 15 years ago? We started on it at least 10 years
But that was
ago.
under the guise of localism.
Yes, indeed.
And we're now seeing what localism
Now,
now
5-year land supply is stronger.
Yeah, but localism was just a nonsense.
Sorry?
The only people that
Yeah, so,
can
as you say,
getting all the money.
the localism thing was absolute nonsense in what was said. The
Not
bit
15
about
years ago, wasn't it?
yeah. Well, they say the words, but they didn't give anybody any teeth, to actually use those words and the principles. So the principles, and I go all the way back to that founding one that they've given us over the last 2 months, is whatever's in the neighbourhood plan is a minimum number of housing. So what was the point in anything that we did? Because we couldn't protect it. Then if you're saying in the 5-year plan, we started this process in 2012. They had a 5-year plan in 2012. Every year from 2012 onwards, they revised that 5-year plan. In 2018, They revised it to include 3 sites in Oundle, but they didn't tell us. And they didn't tell us, most importantly, that they needed completion by 2025. You know, so that would have changed quite significantly the action of the other developers in the town, and the pace that we gave to the plan. And they couldn't have refused the pace on our plan if, instead of allocating particular sites in Oundle, they said Oundle needs to deliver these developments by this date. Yeah.
I think we need to look carefully at this March 2018 situation, because we certainly had a joint meeting, you and I were there, Emma, and a number of other councillors were there, meeting with District Council to talk about progressing neighbourhood plan and district plan side by side.
Yes.
And at that stage they were talking about the need for us to get the neighbourhood plan in quickly, otherwise we would be overtaken. We were told we had to move on it extremely quickly at that time. I don't recall anything about plans being rejected at that time, because they were working with us. They were sat around the table with us to coordinate the two together.
Yes.
Again, the Chief Planning Officer, Mr. Bland, was at that meeting, and he mentioned that he had warned Oundle 2 years earlier that we needed to move quickly on our neighbourhood plan or it would be overtaken. But at that time, immediately after that meeting, should I say, I emailed him and asked who it was specifically that received that email. Where did the email go to? Who was it sent to? Did he have a response from it? And I've not had a reply to my email asking when precisely did that email go out?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to find out from the timing when that would have been, exactly who it would have gone to. Because everybody I've spoken to, nobody can recall being told by them that we had to act 2 years prior to March 2018. But it was about March 2018 when we had that meeting. It was certainly between the January and the April of that year when we met.
I don't want to labour it too far, but the town meeting that we had in the QVH ahead of Regulation 14, when the plans were, you and Paul and Richard Palmer presented the plans. What month was that?
It was
April.
That was April.
And we've got the brochure.
So in April, Richard Palmer was part of a meeting that was saying to the people of Oundle that Cotterstock Road was 30 houses and St Christopher's Drive was 45. And yet he knew that the month before he had put in the 5-year plan 130 houses and 100 houses for those 2 sites.
The only
so you put
comment...
completely different numbers in the 5-year plan to what he was standing up in front of me, because I was a member of the public then, and telling us what was going on.
The only comment he made, and I can't recall whether he said it in that meeting, but the only comment he had made in meetings with us as councillors was that he regretted that we put a number of the numbers of properties on each site. He would have preferred us to have just had 312 properties within
they don't like extra work, but no they don't. They don't like extra work, but the benefit to us was quite plainly that we get some return from developers for allowing them to develop.
Okay.
Well, that was the only thing that Richard Palmer at that time commented that he was unhappy with on our neighbourhood plan, to my recollection.
Yeah, and I think now with hindsight we know exactly why he felt that way.
You will recall, I mean, I don't know if you were there, Tony, but Jerry was there. Well, you were there, Emma. We had a meeting with Richard Palmer, Mike Burton, and I'm not sure if Paul Blane was there. In fact, I think he was there as well, about the neighbourhood plan moving forward after they'd rejected the last neighbourhood plan. And basically, they just obviously decided they didn't want that neighbourhood plan, so they destroyed that. And we actually talked to them and said, well, you know, what should we do? And they said, well, look, the thing to do is to rejig the neighbourhood plan somehow so you can get it sorted. And that's the basis we went on.
Yep. No, we were given a list of things that we needed to put right,
And that's what we did.
and that happened. Yeah,
And then they still rejected it.
yeah.
And then Paul Bland saying they actually rejected it again. You know, in some, I don't know if it was a letter, obviously a letter got lost in the post.
Yep.
Because normally nobody sends letters like that in a voice or email, so it's got lost in the trash from ENC to here. I don't know how that happened either. To say that he told us they rejected the new neighbourhood plan before the examination, it's just not, it's not viable, it's just not true. And somehow we've got to stop this man telling things like that, and Richard Palmer as well, giving out information on one hand and telling something else on another hand, and then getting away with it, because at the moment they're getting away with it, and they will continue to get away with it if we can't stop them very quickly.
Okay. So I think, you know, along these processes, that I need a meeting with Rob Harborough, you know, and with a few of you present, that I want to understand, you know, what Rob Harborough is understanding in the process.
Can I ask one question, Phil? Will he actually have a meeting with us at this moment in time? Because he actually has. Tony wants to have a meeting with Rob Harbour. Will Rob Harbour actually want to attend a meeting with Aldwell?
He won't want to attend the meeting.
So will he do it or not?
I don't know the guy.
Yeah.
Is he a district councillor? What is he?
He looks like he's Kettering.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So he's not a councillor, is he? He's a civil servant. Yeah, an
One
officer.
of the top line senior appointments that have been made for the new unitary, isn't
Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
As I understand it.
So if he's got no, and I don't know about these things because I'm not in politics, but if he's got no actual way forward, he's just shadowing everything, he can't actually do anything about it anyway.
Well, I think my reason for wanting to talk to him is because in this process that if ENC leave the new authority with some liabilities, you know, and those could come from civil cases against them because of the selection process, that he needs to be aware of that, and he needs to be aware of the facts that go behind it. You know, so you know, we just want.
He would only want the district plan to go through, nothing else. The monkeys how it goes through, it just as it goes through.
Yeah, but if the district,
that's what he's got to do.
yeah, but if the district plan is challenged in the civil courts
If we
because of the selection
persuade him
process,
to be challenged,
yeah,
he will see another delay with it,
yeah,
and it won't go through whilst ENC exists.
yeah. So we have stuck record on this. We want a district plan. We want the right sites in the district plan.
Yeah.
The selection process in the documents that were put in front of the Planning Policy Committee just over a month ago, you know, were wrong. You know, they still presented the document that had Prince William School on the Herne Road site.
Yeah.
You know, they still quote in that you know, because the Benefield Road site is alongside a school playing field, you know, it can't be a continuous part of the town. You know, so there are errors in the site selection, or you know, it wasn't selection process; it was a deselection process, because they deselected those sites before they did any appraisal. And what we know also is those sites were deselected before the document even existed, because it was in the 5-year plan. So I need to bring, you know, to make sure that Rob is understanding that and the likely consequences of that.
Which is very strange because it's 300 houses either way.
It makes no difference, does it?
It doesn't make any difference. So either plan would have fitted with what the government wanted at that stage,
Yeah.
but that has changed recently over the last few months. So they've put a great deal more pressure on getting more houses done.
Can we can we, in that case, you're going to write to them in the first instance?
Yeah,
Would
it's a
it
request. Go on.
would it be a good idea if we put the last paragraph of the letter we sent to Tom about the independent planners, saying that we want the local plan, but we feel that an independent planner should look at the full site that we're more interested in, and we would abide by his rules.
Yeah, okay, I'm just a little bit nervous about giving him an answer, but I wanted at the moment to state the problem.
Oh yeah, no, I can understand that. I'm
So,
just, if he has an out there, he might say, well, let's just do it. Let's sort it out before it goes to war.
So what I would like to have is a face-to-face meeting with him first. So the letter is to get us to that position. Yeah.
But if he's like Oliver, and we don't get anything response from him,
Well, we've done our best for him. All I'm saying, is to keep on going back on that we want a local plan. Yeah. We're doing our best to get a local plan to exist.
Yes.
And the downside of the consequences of not getting a robust local plan will be that of liability for the new authority.
Did the town council actually get a response from ENC over our suggestion that we all go with the district plan and they change bits to match the neighbourhood plan?
Well, I think we have a response in as much as the outcome of the Planning Policy Committee meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't get anything else?
No. So
Well, surely in that in itself is remiss of, and well, I say remiss, so it should be a much stronger word.
it should be.
That they're not responding to communications is appalling.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't happen.
And that's outside of ENC?
No.
They're building
In the real world.
They've built this brick wall around themselves, Clive, and
And
it
if we
doesn't
can,
matter.
well, I mean, I suppose it's a tactical thing, but if we can filibuster
So
it
we've
long
got
enough,
two letters
hold
and
it
the
back.
request of a meeting there. The other one is just on a technicality, the call-in notice that we've got. Do we know that the call-in notice was because of what you did or because of what Tom did?
I've had an email from PCU telling me, implying it was my contact, but I have no proof.
Right. It's only in that we need an equivalent letter then from St Christopher's Drive. If Tom's would have been for both sites, but yours was
Specific.
yours was just for.
Do you want some water?
No, we'll come out.
I think the problem is it depends on the 5-year land supply. The only way of getting it considered is to show there's a break with strategic thinking,
Yeah.
or there's a departure from policy.
Yeah.
And with the Codsnot Road one, it's the departure from the local Mineral Waste local plan.
Right.
So no such thing exists.
On St Christopher's.
Yeah,
Right.
but the 5-year land supply and the defence ENC put up for it in 2013 absolutely supports it. So
Yeah.
if the 5-year land supply is in effect, or ENC would defend that, then they should defend the fact that Christmas Drive, under their own RNOT plan, shouldn't be considered for development. And that's the defence that works.
Have you been to Waste and Minerals, the people that you went to Birmingham Planning Unit, on the sewerage element of...
I've been in contact, I haven't had a reply back
So
recently.
can you call that in? Yeah.
That, I don't know, it's up to them. I can imagine it might depend on how much filibustering is going on behind the scenes elsewhere.
Well,
So I've made contact with Personnel Office.
Yeah. If you want me to help you with that, then I'm quite obviously happy.
It's just a matter of what goes on behind the
Because
scenes.
that's two call-ins and that will frighten people around.
So I'll need some help on drafting one of those then. Yeah, for St Christopher's. Have we any late breaking news?
Do you think I've got some?
No, I was just looking around the table.
He's looking at you quite pointedly.
Is there anything we
well,
can share?
you know the only bit of news.
Yeah, can we share it though?
I haven't.
No, all right.
I
Then,
haven't had seats,
yeah,
so permission.
no, all right then. So there is some breaking news, and we've not at the moment got the permission of the party involved to share it. But when we have, then we'll share it via email. Yeah. Right. With that, that's my scribbly sheet. It's just about everything I've not got on my sheet, but just going around the table. David, would you?
I'm just looking at the second half of this to consider the implications of the decision. Well, the implication of the decision is that a large chunk of our original neighbourhood plan has just gone out the window. And next month, one assumes a second very large chunk of it will go out the window. So, to all practical intents and purposes, as I was indicating at the last meeting and the meeting before last, we would have to wait and see what happened with these planning applications, but if both went through, our own original neighbourhood plan is dead in the water, and the only question there would be there be any merit in having a neighbourhood plan that says nothing about housing allocation, but includes all the other bits. Not a discussion with 15 minutes to go. What worries me at the moment is that I can see little prospect of anything other than the St Christopher's Drive getting its permission. That gives us 230 houses before 2021. There are 10 years left of the Joint Core Strategy position, but there is also a query over the 5-year land supply. Almost certainly, there will be more applications for more housing in Oundle hitting ENC's desk any day soon. And my fear is that on top of the 230 that we're talking about now, there will be another 500 plus in this town before 2031. The district plan's a nonsense as well now, because what's the point of having a district plan to allocate land when you've already given planning permission for most of what you were going to talk about? If they had any sense, they'd be thinking, actually, we're going to run into another land supply issue in the latter part of that. They should be working on a new district plan, which will have no doubt yet more housing allocations in Oundle. That's almost certainly the reality of it. And is there any way in which we can actually fight that? That's what I want to know, because the implications for this town of somewhere between 500 and 700 new houses, which I know Councillor Sparks was worrying about, 12 months ago easily, is now looking more and more likely to come to pass as far as I can see. And this town has not got the infrastructure to support that. It simply hasn't.
You forgot the David Wilson house on Stoke Door Road.
No, I haven't. I mean, when I'm looking at all of the numbers, we've got that.
Yeah, you've got
will
300
come up. But there are two other large sites that we were championing. Well, what's the prospects of those ones not now coming forward? They're bound to.
I think,
And if ENC haven't got a 5-year land
to
supply,
ENC and the management committee of accepting that application or not, based upon the fact that it's not in the district plan. Okay,
but we haven't got a district plan.
Playing with words, but
And
if those come up and they're not in the district plan, in theory, they have a reasonable chance of being turned down.
not if they're being told that there isn't a 5-year land supply.
But that kind of makes it difficult, yeah. I see.
And therein lies the problem. And what I really want to know is, how has ENC got itself into this mess? How has it ended up in a situation where, despite trying to ensure it maintained a 5-year land supply, it hasn't got one? Whose fault is it? Where's it gone wrong? I'm not casting aspersions necessarily in your direction, Phil, but I want to know the answer.
But officers have obviously in the past dictated what the 5-year land supply is as far as we're concerned and the areas are concerned, and they were obviously expecting and hoping that some sites would come forward, which were plainly not. Big ones in Rushton and Earthlinborough East, about 2,000 houses or so, will not come through. They never were going to come through, in my humble opinion, but they're certainly not going to come through now. Which makes it worse, because they will now look for other sites to get another 800 or 900 houses on. And there's a big site at Stanwick, and we have our own big site north of Costock, owned by Persimmon or the ex-Persimmon.
It's John Martin.
So those two sites, I think, will be a lot bigger than what we're talking about, and will make us a lot more difficult. How they get the infrastructure for that, I don't know. But that's what the NC are working on.
Well, I think one of the other battles we've got coming up, or should have be thinking about, is how you make, if it all falls apart around the scene and developers get their way and come in, how do a local community, or us, or any other local community, hold them accountable for what they're doing and supply the children the cycleways, the pavements, the road structures, the playgrounds, the dog parks, everything else that makes a community, that they blandly say in all their documentation, yes, this will happen, and it never does, and it never does effectively. I mean, I think that's the looming battle that, you know, we should be able at some point to say, hang on guys, you know, you're making trillions out of this, and you're not providing 4 swings. You know, this is insane.
Do we have the tools to do that?
I think your question about do we have the tools is probably where it all comes down to, and to my mind it keeps coming back to Rob Harborough. Yeah, because we're in his time frame now. We're saying that if the only way for the new unitary authority to meet its housing is to increase the size of Oundle, you know, please let us take part in the development of Oundle. And you know,
hold
if the housing,
hold the developers to account for it.
well, it's more than the developers, you know, because the infrastructure things that we're talking about, you know, I mean, we start with Ian's favourite subject, the sewage farm. Yeah. But you know,
You like the smell of the sewage?
I do. Around
Anglian Water have been clear on every planning application, you know, for Oundle, that there is a limit to how much that site can take, and they don't know when the site will meet its limit. But when it does, there's no more development. You know, so you know, if they are to increase the size of it, you know, somebody needs to pay for it, and it can't be the last man in that pays for it. You know, so the previous developments go in and they make no contribution, and the next ones have to. Equally with the road structure, you know, as we talked about road structure, if we sat down and we did road planning ourselves, we would say, right, if you're going to have all of those sites, we need to put in something. And it might not be as dramatic as Oakham, you know, with their big bypass, but it would be, you know, to my mind, at least another entrance to the 605 off Herne Road.
As a minimum.
But we would design the estates around it. So in terms of a conversation with Rob, you know, we're saying, you know, the part of it is, look, Rob, that lot is wrong and you've got a liability if you don't sort it out. But by the way, if you do sort it out, then we do need to talk to you about how Oundle is going to grow. Yeah. You know, and I think, you know, that to my mind is a positive way forward on this one.
And also it backs up the point about consultation, because it's very clear looking through all the stuff from the neighbourhood plan, the district local plan, the complaints about the planning applications, that it's infrastructure, it's the single issue that drives everyone's concern.
So, in light of my previous missives, you know, I'll draft something. David will turn it into English. Yeah, take out the bad bits, put in some better ones, and then we'll get it as a document that we send. We've got 2 of them, one to Tom and one to Rob. In terms of timing, I think the Tom one is the critical one. You know, to get that out quickly. You know, so I'll do that one first. Yes.
And I think perhaps a letter to the Waste and Minerals.
So waste minerals in North Kent. shops or...
Well, it's the minerals or the guys you spoke to in Birmingham. I don't know who, because I haven't been involved that directly, but they require, I think, a letter from us to say, are you going to call it in? Like you said you would, so.
So in your sentence then, you say a letter from us. Who do you think about the odds are there?
This council.
Council.
Yeah, okay. It's only that Ian, as an individual, put the request in. But so as long as that, could you draft something and let me?
I've got something that we can use very easily.
I have the rubber stamp.
I can do that.
Yeah. Because we haven't got much time on that one, have we?
Yeah, that has to be
That they could overnight just tick a box and say we're not going to do it.
Absolutely.
Anything else critically urgent we need to do on this? No.
I would like to find out the costs of the judicial review and if we could cloud fund it.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of research into this, and the rough figures are between 40 and 60,000 plus.
So is that 1460 or
4060 plus potentially the other side's costs.
Yeah.
So potentially it's 100 grand.
Well, that's only if they use the same sort of lawyers as we do. If you were there.
Oh, that's true. There's one very good-looking lawyer over in Cambridge that seems to specialise in this, but the point they make is if you have a judicial review, particularly one on technicality, and the planning authority take it back, start again, and then get the technicality right, you end up with the same decision. It just costs you a lot of money to get there. So it's a risky business. By the sounds of it.
The reason I asked that is because there was, and I can't remember the chap's name, but he lives in Benfield. He took the...
Yeah, so what he did was he actually threatened them with a judicial... I don't know if you're thinking about the new built wind farm, was it?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they did there, they threatened them with a judicial review. They didn't actually take them to one. So sometimes, when you say, we'll call it judicial review, that action is enough.
Well,
But I
can we
don't
not
think
threaten them with a judicial review then?
Well, the sad thing is that the offended parties have got extremely deep pockets, and they will not underspend on legal support.
They'll happily make a pillory us on purpose.
It's just that I can't see any soft options.
Now, well, if we go, as we mentioned earlier, the formal complaint that we have with them, when they respond to the second stage, if we're not happy with the response, that then automatically gives us the ability to go to the Ombudsman.
But it won't affect the local plan or the progression of the planning applications from Gladman's and Persimmon.
And unfortunately, neither would judicial review at this point in time.
No, but I think, they might think twice about putting it in to a planning app and tell that it's gone through.
Yeah. So,
I think you'd need to be able to spell out to them extremely clearly what decision one is judicially seeking to review and why. And it's no good just saying we want to judicially review the decision to grant planning permission, because what is the actual basis for saying that they have effectively so misdirected themselves that it should be set aside? I think you'd struggle. I would be very keen
about process? Anything else?
Well, no, it is about, to a degree, about process, but then there's so many things about this process that we're unhappy about, but whether any of them or all of them cumulatively are enough, I don't know. I mean, the point would be, in an ideal world, you'd go off, you'd put everything in front of a suitable planning council and say, have we or have we not got a realistic prospect? But that is going to cost us many thousands. We may get a straight no. And even if we got a yes, we're then into the issue of the costs. And I certainly don't think there'd be less than £100,000 that you're putting at stake probably significantly more. I don't know where this money is supposed to come from. And, you know, saying we could crowdfund.
I don't, look,
And
all I want to do
at
is
that
put
level,
it
it's not going to
forward.
happen.
Okay.
I'm trying to find a way of cracking this nut, because at the moment, we have no cracks in the nut.
No.
And I can't see that cracks will appear if we don't do something by using some sort of sledgehammer.
Yeah. So
It may be one of the other prospective developers has almost a better chance. In the sense that it does not appear as if the NC treated them in an even-handed manner. It does appear, you can put it no stronger than that some seem to get information that others didn't, in the same way that we were kept out of the loop about certain things. And maybe they have some basis, and of course, if you think about it, if you are developing a site of 100 or 200 or 300 or what have you, the potential that you could make out of that is so enormous that if you have the resources, you know, I would be tempted if I was sitting in their shoes.
I'm aware of the time of the meeting, and the chair of the next meeting is always.
Yeah, I'm going to stop talking, otherwise I'm going to have to...
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you're holding your own committee.
Yeah,
So
Just
Peter
some
will
way to
continue
myself.
with ideas, but thank you, Emma. There was a call meeting to an end at this point.